you've been in a past life or who you've been with in a past life. It's what are you doing with that now? It's
with
about
what now?
this life. It's not about I've been Cleopatra in a past life. It doesn't matter. Are you using the tools that you learned being Cleopatra in this life to make this life better? It doesn't matter if somebody and you had a wonderful marriage in a past life. That may not be why you're together in this life. And if you delude yourself into that, then you're likely to get hurt because your expectations is that that person will act the same way they did with you in the past life. And I would argue why? Because you've already had that experience. Your soul has put you back together or brought two threads together because there's something different they must be learning, not because they're here to repeat what they already know.
What do you mean by threads?
It's the concept that it is the soul that has the lives, not the ego. And that my ego in this life is named Joni, but that's not my soul. My soul is an eternal being, whereas my ego is not. My ego is just a thread, which is another way of saying a memory for the soul. So all my experiences, the soul is capturing and learning from, and those are memories. And yes, that memory the soul can choose to use that memory again. And because we are really our soul, and we forget that when we're being our ego, because we are really our soul has all the memories of all the threads and all they've experienced. And sometimes we remember those and we think it's us having those experiences when it isn't. It's the soul that had those experiences, and we have accessed that memory in this ego.
If there's such a thing as past lives, why don't we remember them when we're here?
It becomes too complicated. If you, for instance, let's say you were born and you were a gentle, loving, nice, wonderful person, and then you found out in a past life that you had been a pedophile who hurt and mutilated many children. How would you live with that? So unless the soul has an intent for you to remember it for a specific reason, it becomes way too complicated. It's as though you've read 1,000,000 books and want to remember the essence of every book and use all that information. You couldn't. So the soul lets some people remember some things, others remember nothing, and some have pieces of things. But I really do think we all have inklings of past lives that the soul has lived. For instance, we're drawn to certain places. We're repelled by others. We're drawn to certain people. We're repelled by certain people. Many, many years ago, I had a gentleman come to me for a reading, and he was quite prejudiced, extremely prejudiced, but I didn't know it. And he asked me about past lives, and I told him about a life in which he had been a slave who kept trying to run away, and each time he would run away, they'd take a body part off until he couldn't run anymore. And when I got done with the story, he responded to me completely aghast and said, life, which just almost knocked me over. And I said, just let it sit with you a while, please. And he stormed out. And about 7 months later, he called me for a reading, and he came and he said, you changed my life, because after you told me about that lifetime, I started having dreams about it and realized that one of the reasons I was so prejudiced in this life was all the unfinished business of that one and all the anger I had toward what was done to me. And I had converted that anger into this prejudice and looked for all the reasons to hate. And as soon as I had worked on this a while thinking about it, all my hatred's gone. I'm no longer angry at everything. And I thought, hallelujah, that's why the soul gave me the information.